I lost my child today. People came to weep and cry as I just sat and stared, dry-eyed. They struggled to find the words to say to try and make the pain go away. I walked the floor in disbelief. I lost my child today. I lost my child last month. Most of the people went away. Some still call and some still stay. I wait to wake up from this dream. This can't be real. I want to scream. Yet everything is locked inside. God help me. I want to die. I lost my child last month. I lost my child last year. Now people who had come have gone. I sit and struggle all day long to bear the pain so deep inside. And now my friends just question why. Why does this mother not move on? Just sits and sings the same old song. Good heavens, it has been so long. I lost my child last year. Time has not moved on for me. The numbness, it has disappeared. My eyes have now cried many tears. I see the look upon your face. She must move on and leave this place. Yet I am trapped right here in time. The song's the same, as is the rhyme. I lost my child today. This was written by Netta Wilson and it was something that was sent through to me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The intent of today's show is to reach as many grieving parents as possible. We will capture most of grief during the next 4 days. We've got emotional healing, we've got health, and we also have, your overall mental wellness. I look at the time right now and Mondays are always the same for me. It is 21 weeks today that I had to say goodbye to my 7-year-old son. I remember looking at the car navigator that morning. It was 8:30 and I looked at it and I was like, okay, we're going to be home at 10:30. We had a solid 5-day holiday with family and I knew that it was early enough to get settled and the next day was school. But at this time, I was sitting on the grass next to him. The paramedics had called it. Just 30 minutes before Mohammed and I were having this conversation about something about a bridge, and in such a short space of time, that entirely changed. He was next to me. I remember feeling this utter feeling of hopelessness, of helplessness, of knowing that there's no return, total disbelief. And I remember a family member, a crowd had gathered. It was an accident, and a crowd had gathered, and they had put that the thermal sheet on over him, and somebody had covered his face with it. And in that moment, I was not ready. I was not ready to say goodbye. I was not ready. So I pulled it off, and I said to him, Muhammad would not like this. So, yes, and in that moment, my grief journey had begun. And I feel like the first week was so grounding for me because I had a strong team of professionals who are my friends. And I could call them at 2 a.m. and I could be like, why am I feeling like this? Why can't I stop thinking? And they sort of directed my thinking. And only then I was made aware that there is something called a grief journey. When you're feeling these overwhelming feelings of loss, of pain, you're not in sort of you cannot move beyond that to sit on your phone, to sit on Google and be like, why? Like, in the very first week, your feelings are just so overwhelming. They're just so strong. So my friends helped in the sense that they brought to my attention that yes, there is something called the grieving process, and what you're feeling is completely natural. And for me, that sort of rounded everything up. And today I've got Keshni Mathi. I am so honored to have this amazing lady chatting to us today about the different stages of grief. Keshni is no stranger to grief, and she has dedicated so much of her life to helping bereaved mums. Thank you so much for joining us today, Keshni.
Thank you so much for having me, Sabihah, and thank you for introducing me to Mohammed. In response, my son is Aaron. He died 9 years ago. So I would like to also link that it's more than just all the credentials that you see at the bottom of the screen there. It's definitely heartfelt because this topic, it lingers and impacts you forever.
I am so, so sorry for your loss. And I love how you are using your pain to help other moms find their feet and sort of pulling the pieces together to then move forward, even with the hurt and with the pain, but, just to sort of move. And tell me about Elsa. I know that you are the founder of Elsa. What is Elsa?
So Elsa is the End of Life Supportive Alliance, and in my journey, and this was 9 years ago, and I'm a counselor, I didn't find really enough help. So what I needed was somebody who understood my pain as a bereaved mother. And although I had many friends who were counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists, and they did help me tremendously through that immediate feeling, I felt that there was a need for mothers to connect with mothers who are trained in the art of being able to support each other and support families through the significance of loss of a child. And so Elsa aims to offer support to any mother, accessible support to any mother. You don't have to have money for this. You don't have to have time for this. It's online. To reach out and be able to say, I need help, I'm struggling, whether your child is on terminal diagnosis or even if a family member is. But if you are currently going through miscarriage, IVF, stillbirth, or even if you have lost a child through traumatic incident, Elsa is there to support you. We work on a volunteer basis, so practitioners that I have trained, but also practitioners that are just out there and saying, I'm doing the work, I'm open arms, and we help to get the message out there that, number one, the pain never goes away. And number two, sometimes good intentions can lead to more pain if we don't know where that person is in their journey and how to support them from a point of not just knowing, but from a point of really feeling and enabling them to be able to feel to the depths of their soul. A typical example of that is saying your child's name, Mohammed, Aaron, saying their name. Many people are afraid after our children die to speak their names. And so when their names are not spoken, the mothers experience it in a different way. And practitioners within Elsa know that. And so they help you. They help you with the legacy of your child as you're progressing through your grief journey, with the understanding that at times the waves will hit you again. And that is okay too, because you're still a mother, still a mother.
That is so amazing. So it's a bestie who knows what you are going through and can then direct your thinking and your feeling accordingly so that you can basically move with the grief,
Exactly.
and I've been sharing a lot of my journey. I've been sharing a lot of my journey on my social media, which we will talk a little bit more about that. And also, I will share Elsa's details on all our platforms as well for people out there, because that's exactly what I found as well, that, society sort of expects you to accept the loss and just move forward because they don't know what to do with us, because the feeling is so overwhelming, and only a parent who's going through this can feel that. But we do have an ad break, and yeah, we will be back shortly.
Joining hands, Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
There's no smell that takes me back to the comfort of my childhood than the smell of blackseed oil being applied by my nanny. Now I'm using tib blackseed in my own home to soothe sniffles and coughs, to help with digestion and immunity, and of course, as part of my beauty routine. After all these years, I've come to appreciate the wisdom in finding comfort and shifa in trusted treatments like Tib Black Seed. You can find Tib Black Seed at all leading pharmacies or find out more at blackseed.co.za.
They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, yet many children go to school hungry because of poverty. Penny Appeal South Africa's Breakfast Club aims to get a warm, hearty meal to underprivileged children so they can spend their day prospering in their schoolwork. Help feed a needy learner for only 5 Rand a day or 150 Rand a month. Or visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can donate. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and free zakat calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Albeit Lodge, your true home away from home. Albeit is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Albeit has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albeitlodge.co.za.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
And we are back with Keshni Mathi, and we are unpacking grief. Keshni, when I was sitting with my grief, I sort of questioned myself, and I was asking myself, so what is this grief? What is grief? And for me, the description of grief is just stuck. You're just stuck in this overwhelming feeling of sadness, at that point. And, life moves on, the paper gets delivered, your kids still have needs, you still have bills to pay, but you were just sort of stuck, and that's how grief felt to me. How does grief feel for you, or how would you describe grief?
It's so powerful what you're saying, because it felt like that. It felt like everything that I'd ever known was thrown out the window. It feels like like I died. It felt like it was end of life for me. Like I needed to begin again. Like everything that I believed, all my hopes and dreams were now being packaged away. And it felt like my children's lives, my husband's life had changed. And it did feel like I was stuck and almost like buried in a hole. And I couldn't see the way out. And not only that, but there was a lot of shame and guilt associated with that as well, and what ifs and how could I? And every time I tried to climb out of this hole of stuckness, I would just topple back in because I couldn't see in front of me anyone that had done it, and I had never experienced it. So I like to describe it as like a new level of sadness. And I like to describe it as death of self, death of that person that you knew before. Because a lot of times I was trying to get back to who I was. And until I came to the realization that I'm not that person before, that I'm forever changed and I need to move forward with what I now know and what I now feel in order to almost recreate and rebuild myself, knowing what I know now. you know? And for me, that's what it felt like: overwhelming, pushed to the extreme, completely stretched, without much of a lifeline of how to get back into any form that was going to be able to be there for my children and my work and my husband. So I
And
resonate with you.
and what helped you move forward with this grief? Or was it then that you were moving through the different stages? Was there awareness like, okay, fine, I'm feeling anger at this point? Or what helped you
Mhm.
in those different stages? And was there an awareness of the stages of grief at that point?
Yeah, so I'm a trained counselor, so I knew it well, but I didn't experience it in that way. So, it's called DABDA, or I call it DABDA, right? DABDA.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, right? So this is what I was told. I was trained. This is what I was giving my clients. Like, you are going to be experiencing this set of symptoms, and to a certain degree, social media says in this way, right? In this particular sequence, right? But the person
Mm,
that created this, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she created it with palliative care in mind. So I'm a palliative care specialist. She created it with dying people. So dying people go through those kinds of stages. Grieving, you don't. Grieving is unique. Grieving isn't a
mm,
straight line. You don't go through first denial, then anger, then bargaining. Some people completely miss one and jump to the other. Some never go through 3 out of the 4. So it was very confusing at the beginning, to say, oh, hold on, everything I know is now different. And this is what I've learned about grief: it's a customized coat of emotions that sits on you in a way that almost brings to light your weaknesses and your insecurities. And so it can look different ways to different people. Now, the model, the Ross model, is exceptional for normalizing those emotions, to say it is normal for you to be in denial, to feel your loved one, to feel your son, to hear his voice. All of those things are normal, to not feel like it's real, to be reliving it. It's normal for you to feel anger. It's normal for you to try to bargain. Even with God, it's
mm.
normal. All of those things are normal. Just one more day, I'll do this, I'll be better. It's normal for you to go into depressive thoughts. It's not pathological, it is normal. And it's normal for you to finally reach a stage of acceptance, never for the why, but for the event itself. To say, okay, my son is no longer here, Aaron's no longer here. I don't have to accept how it happened or why it happened, but I can accept that it did happen. So even the stages and what's been put out there, it's very simplistic compared to what is lived, And to answer your question, what took me to the new level of actually, because I stopped counseling after my son died. I said, I can't do this. I'm in no
Mm,
state, especially to help another person.
mm,
So I stopped for 18 months just to work on myself. And what I found is I was so desperate is that I put up a little message on social media and I said, are there any other moms in this community that has lost a child? I need to talk to someone.
mm,
And I formed a little support group where I didn't sit there as a counselor. I sat there as a bereaved mother. And we just spoke, and we could retell the story, and we could speak, and we could cry, and we could laugh at some of the things that we were being told. And we could get frustrated and angry, all in the safe space. And only then did I realize, number one, I'm not alone. But number two, my grief is unique and valid, and my son does matter, you know? And that is what gave me this little oomph to say, hold on, hold on. We are whispering these losses that are so significant because we feel that it might offend others. But we need a safe space where we can speak about it because 1 in 3 women will have a miscarriage. There are people going out there into the world proclaiming and masking that they're okay, but they are carrying the pain of years before or recent losses. And they are almost afraid to come forward with what they truly feel because they don't want to hurt others or be judged. And they're holding themselves to a standard that really doesn't exist in space. So it is a fantastic model. However, do not hold your own grief to that. utilize it as a normalization tool, and then design your grief. Design your grief and give yourself permission that you walk alongside it now.
There's so many pearls of wisdom that you've dropped there, but I would like to start with, how does one design their grief?
So, Sabihah, I am a big fan of pity parties for myself.
Okay.
I'm a
Okay.
big fan of scheduling my grief. So between 7 and 8 o'clock every morning, that's mine and Aaron's time. I go into the shower, my kids are at school, my husband's at work, and I speak to him and I tell him all the things he's missed in the week, and I wonder what he looks like today, and I hug him close and I feel. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm angry with him because he left, but that is my moment. And what I find is doing that, I'm less likely to cry and pick and pay over spilt milk. I'm less likely to do that. So for me, allowing my time, allowing my self that time really does help. The second thing with designing your grief is finding out how your behavior and emotion fit together and articulating that to others. So I always like to tell my kids, on the 14th of October, what day is it? And they all go, it's Aaron's birthday, because they all celebrate Aaron's birthday, right? We have a cake. And I say to them, okay, and how will mommy be feeling? Mommy will be feeling sad. Okay, but there are times when my sadness can look like distemper. There are times when my sadness can look like frustration. There are times when my sadness can look like I want to be in my room, or that I overwork and I book sessions on that day. So how does my emotion and behavior play together? And can I articulate that to those around me so that they know that I'm emoting? Because sometimes I might come across as if I'm not sad, but expect people to be holding me and understanding me in my sadness, right? So that's the second thing about designing. It's a little bit more work, but it's articulating to people. The third thing is boundaries, which is very important. So I remember people used to tell me lots of well-intentioned things. My goodness, it really came from a very, very good place. I know, I feel it. I love them. However, they were hurtful. They were very hurtful. And for a certain time, people thought I was contagious. So, pregnant women would stay away, wasn't invited to many birthdays, and it is about, I'm laughing about it now, but it wasn't funny back then. But it is also about setting boundaries to say, these are the things that I can do. These are the things that I can't do. And if somebody says something hurtful to me, then I'm going to say, I know you meant that with the best of intent, but it really doesn't serve me very well now. This is not something that serves me at the moment. And it's about waking up every morning and say, how am I feeling today? What is possible today? And how can I enable to allow myself to feel to the depth of the feeling? Do not, and I'll say this to everyone who's listening, don't tell yourself, I feel a little bit bad, I need to get over it. And feel the sadness to the depth of the sadness. Because what happens is when we keep touching the top of things, we never get down to the bottom. And so we're constantly carrying this around with us,
Keshni, I'm so sorry. We need to go into a break, but I'll get you right there.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Spread warmth this winter with Africa Muslims Agency's Winter Warmth Campaign. Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu would advise his companions, winter, which is an enemy, has come, so prepare for it with wool, leather socks and socks. Let us help the thousands of South Africans without adequate clothing or shelter to prepare for the harsh winter months by providing them with blankets for 150 Rand and winter warmth packs for 300 Rand. Spread warmth with Africa Muslims Agency. Call AMA on 011-834-8685 or donate online at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency. Empowering, educating, inspiring.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
When you give water, you're reaching out to drought-affected areas, bringing them to life. Fresh water to drink, to clean, and to grow. That's the power of water. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
At Sentio, our Invest for Good philosophy is based on a genuine desire to use our investment skills for the benefit of broader society by investing responsibly, giving charitably, and developing talent that will transform the investment industry. Visit www.sentio-capital.com for more information about our Sharia investment products and start saving with us today. Sentio Capital. Invest for good. Sentio Capital Management is an authorized financial services provider.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
Hi guys, and we are back with Keshni, and prior to the break, Keshni was discussing how to customize your grief, you know, so that you can basically move on, or I don't know, it's so hard to say move on because it's a move with it. Carry your grief and move with it so that you can be in a space of healing. And you touched on, you know, scheduling it. That makes me think of sitting with it for a little bit. You also touched on behavior, you know, and sort of giving insight into that to those around you, those, you know, your beloved people, so that they understand which part you are, you know, how you're feeling on that particular day. You mentioned boundaries. And the other thing that I love that you mentioned is the strong, you know, when that's what I call it. At the beginning of the day, I look at it and I'm like, okay, so how much strong do I have today? How am I feeling? What can I give energy into? What is a priority? If I can't cook lunch, then I don't. Then I don't guilt myself like, oh, how can I give Michelle and Suluk takeaways again for like the third time this week or whatever? I'm just like, you know what? I don't have the energy for this right now. Something of work popped up that needs a little bit more focus because it's heavy. You know, feeling how you're feeling is heavy, and then you are trying to get through day-to-day tasks and day-to-day things and priorities, but you're still feeling heavy. So yeah, so we were discussing that, I think, before we went into the ad.
Yeah. And you know, it's also important to sit with yourself, right? So, you know, whatever that feels like, to look within and to focus on the life lived. And I think that's very important because sometimes we can fixate on the life lost. And it's about looking at the life lived and creating a legacy for your child or for your loved one. And that means, you know, yes, eventually we're going to reach integration. And integration is where we are completely able to walk through life. And even though the grief is there, we get used to it. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with grief as a box, Sabihah, or your viewers are familiar with grief as a box, but the concept says that we are like a big box. And the pain trigger or the event, which we call the loss, is a little button within the box. And our grief is like a big ball. And what happens is at the beginning, that ball is constantly hitting the pain button. It's constantly hitting the pain button, and we cannot control when it hits. But later in life, because we build resiliency, and over time, the pain button itself does not dissolve, it does not become less. The pain is still the same. But the ball that is moving around in your box is going to hit it lesser times within the day and might hit it significantly more times during birthdays or over Christmas or those significant days. So that reintegration does happen, and it is healthy for it to happen. But everyone needs to also take their time with their grief, because there isn't a timeline. It might have taken me a few weeks or a few months or a few years. Others, it might take a little bit longer. And for as long as it's not affecting your day-to-day work on a prolonged period of time, and it is not pathological, right? It is completely normal for you to be feeling that way. But sitting with yourself, whether in prayer or whether in whatever other practices you use to just still yourself, and just focusing on a life well lived and on the good memories and on the benefits and the joys that this life has brought you, and of looking back at the feelings of holding this baby in your womb, it does then position the good and the happiness and the memories, and it does rephrase and redesign your last thoughts and images that you will hold with you when you go to bed at night. So it also does play a big role in alleviating the pressure that people feel, which is, of course, all these emotions that are put together that is called grief.
So it's basically a mind shift from looking at the actual incident or, the loss at that time to the more happier memories, whatever that may be, so that you can almost give thanks and give gratefulness for, for that, for whoever it is that you've lost to have been here.
Yeah, it's the movement of fixation from something that we could not control to something that we can. Because that's what death does. It removes control. So we go into control mode. I want to control this, control that, and it can make us act in ways that are out of the norm as we are redesigning who we are to become. So it's also about just that whole approach. And that takes time too. So I'm not saying rush into it, but when you are ready to look back, find those moments to do it. And integrate it into pods of joy, So, for example, if my son's favorite food was mac and cheese, for example, instead of having that as a symbol of his death, I can have it every Friday as a symbol of his life, And it's about creating this legacy where people can engage with the memory of our children without the guilt established to it, so that they do not have to die again with silence.
And I like that you've mentioned the big guilt word, because acceptance is part of the process and it is part of the journey. But do you often find with grieving parents or anybody who is in grief who are at that stage of acceptance that they feel guilty? They feel bad somehow for sort of finding their feet again and moving forward.
Absolutely. Every single parent that comes to me, mothers, fathers, even grandparents, feel the guilt. Either I wish I could have done something, or I'm pregnant again. Am I replacing this child? Or do I have a birthday party? Or, there's a constant feeling of guilt. And that guilt is slightly socialized because it is seen as unnatural for a child to die before their parents, right? And it's our job, we feel, to protect them, while they are here on earth. So that guilt is something that is, again, we have to accept it as part of the baggage of being a mother or a father or a grandparent, where we say, yes, I feel guilty, but is it a logical guilt, or is it something I just want to sit with at the moment? And am I going to let this illogical, unconscious feeling compromise my ability to be able to live fully, which is what I need to do and I want to do for those around me.
So I think that awareness is important, and also self-talk,
Yes.
always continuously checking in to know where you are, to see where you are, speaking to your grief, sort of just waiting for the answers. I feel like that sort of gives you a view on how you need to take the next step.
Self-talk is so important because it's normally the voices inside our head that we listen to more than the voices outside. So it's what you tell yourself and when you tell yourself that. Sometimes it looks like I'm doing the best I can. Sometimes it looks like I am tired today and it's okay. And sometimes it looks like I'm feeling strong and that's okay too. Because there is a lot of guilt also associated with feeling good and happy after a loss that is this significant. So, it comes down to self-talk that needs to be affirmed by those around you. So self-talk and positive talk is fantastic when it is invited in. But it feels quite aggressive and intrusive when I'm having a bad day and somebody's trying to give me advice that is too optimistic for what my clients or even me are ready for. So it's also about that kind of alignment of how am I feeling, and cognitively understanding that if I'm feeling this way, chances are whatever is said to me will be taken the wrong way, and I need to understand that as well.
Okay, so quickly, if we can discuss this after the ad break. Coping strategies. Would you call this a coping strategy? Is coping strategy a good thing? Is it not a good thing? And how valuable is it to rather talk to somebody who has been through it or is currently grieving as well? I think you mentioned the support group, and I know with me as well, I found it easier to connect with the hundreds of ladies who came forward and said, hey, you know what, I've been there. It does get easier. Some people were like, it doesn't get easier, it gets harder. But I think that safe space was created to share, in a non-judgy way, and I think the care is evident because moms who've been through it, even though we all uniquely process it, they know. They know. Okay, so we will be going into an ad, and we will be back with Keshni for the last 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Salam Media, a global voice for humanity.
The Turkey-Syria earthquake is among the deadliest earthquakes of the last century. Thousands have lost their lives, and large areas and cities and towns in southern Turkey and northern Syria have turned to rubble, leaving huge numbers of residents with very little or nothing at all. Al-Imdad Foundation's emergency relief team is on the ground providing life-saving aid. The people of Turkey and Syria desperately need your support. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Online schooling? Why not? Kurtuba Online Academy is the leading global online Islamic school from grade R to matric, offering South African caps and international syllabus. And it doesn't stop there. We also offer online madrasa for every grade. For more information, visit www.kurtubaonline.co.za. Kurtuba Online Academy, the leading global online Islamic school.
What makes Randery Jewelers the optimum place for your memorable gift? Is it our range of exclusive, high-end, luxurious jewellery? Or is it our master craftsmanship of all your bespoke jewellery needs? We believe it's because at Randery Jewelers, we know just how to make your special moments last forever. Whether it's for a wedding, anniversary, or just a simple gift to show your love, trust Randery Jewelers to make it special. www.randaryjewelers.com. Make your moments last forever with Randary Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, yet many children go to school hungry because of poverty. Penny Appeal South Africa's Breakfast Club aims to get a warm, hearty meal to unprivileged children so they can spend their day prospering in their schoolwork. Help feed a needy learner for only 5 Rand a day, or 150 Rand a month. Or visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can donate. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
And we are back. Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Keshni. Okay, so I feel like there's so much more to this topic, hey? And yeah, but the information that has been shared and that we have discussed, I find it so valuable. Common themes for, and I think this would also be more for people who have a loved one who is grieving. So not necessarily directly, we've spoken about how easy it is to say something from a good place, but it's not necessarily the right thing to say. When I've had that with my friends as well, and I love them to bits, but there was a period when I couldn't talk to anybody. I felt more comfortable sharing it on social media because there wasn't really that directly one-on-one. So I had all these overwhelming feelings, that needed an outlet. So it was easier for me to sort of write them down, share them on social media without having one-on-one conversations. So I think this is specifically would be for a mom who's watching a child grieve, or a best friend, the common themes, and how would one rather go about providing assistance in that valuable way?
So supporting someone who's grieving, again, is, it depends on the individual, right? So we just want to put that out as a disclaimer here. It's not one.
Yes.
What's most beneficial is creating a multidisciplinary team approach, an MDT. So you have to look at the individual. I love my acronyms, right?
Yeah. Unforgettable. Yeah, they like stick. Yeah.
You have to look at them as a whole. So it's not just looking at the emotional, it's looking at the spiritual, it's looking at the physical, it's looking at that if it's a child, their school or their work, and how we can assist and provide support and coping mechanisms in each of those areas, right? So, for example, what normally happens when someone is grieving is that they try to hold themselves up, make themselves very small, and they kind of filter around and put protective things around them. So what you were saying is a coping strategy, right? Creating a blog, having an email address that only you can see and writing letters to that loved one, a child being able to send voice notes to their daddy who has died, to another number. These are coping mechanisms from an emotional perspective. From a physical perspective, we need movement and we need the sun, because all of that creates happy hormones within us, serotonin, your dopamine levels, your endorphins, which reduces pain. So going out in the sunlight just for 5 minutes a day. And for my clients, I say, if you can't move your whole body, just stick a hand out the window. It's a start.
It's a start, yes.
Let's just do that.
And then you acknowledge that start. You're like, hey, I had, yes, I did something, I did this. This was my goal. And I feel great. And yes, you feel empowered almost.
If you're at work and you're grieving, put a timer on your phone, walk 7 minutes in a straight line, walk 7 minutes back. Congratulations, you've done your 15 minutes of movement a day. Fantastic, right? Hydrate with water. That multidisciplinary team includes friends, absolutely. includes your prayer groups or your spiritual healers, absolutely. Includes as well, if you need to, and I recommend someone neutral, right? So you have your support group, which is moms just like you or people just like you. But then you have your trusted counselor or your trusted end-of-life doula or your trusted somebody else that you can, those things that you really don't want to tell, that you can say it to this person and it's out there in the open, multidisciplinary team. Spending time volunteering creates endorphins for us and creates serotonin and dopamine like never before, giving something for free. So re-gifting the beautiful items of your loved ones with purpose. With purpose. I don't recommend donating it to a home. Write a letter to every child that's going to receive that piece of clothing and dedicate it to that loved one or to your husband or whoever has died. So creating purpose is a coping mechanism as well. And sometimes it's just catching your breath. Sometimes it's being able to just sit and breathe deeply, and that's through your nose, through your mouth, box breathing, 4 breaths in through your mouth, nose, hold it, out through your mouth, hold it, because we need to oxygenate our brain, because what grief does is it stops the cognitive, all those neurons that can work, the little gossip neurotransmitters say, not working today, okay? And so we are not listening or engaging as much as we want to. Social connection is so important when you are ready and in the way that you want. So you articulate that beautifully. When you said, I felt I couldn't talk to someone, but this is what I did for social connection. So in this day and age, it doesn't even need to look like we once thought of it. But isolation means that grief will enforce domination. And that's what we want to try to alleviate, right? The one factor that oversets the intense feelings of grief and pain is joy. So I always like to tell my clients and those I train, I say, force yourself to find a pot of joy. Whether that is finding a new flower or watching puppies fall on their faces on YouTube, okay? Whatever makes you happy. Find one pot of joy. Find one thing that brings you joy, a shower, a bath, whatever it is, and make that a routine joy pot. But here's the key. The joy must be created by you for you. You cannot rely on family members or children to filter in that joy. It has to be for you, to you, right? Because you matter. So the best way to cultivate this is to ask yourself, what am I ready to do now? And where do I want to be with this memory? And then to work your way towards it. Because if we don't have a goal, we can't articulate our path, and we need to control something. So it might as well be one tiny step forward, one tiny finger out the window.
Would this be daily goals? Or would this be long term, or what would a goal look like?
So I like to think of the grief journey as bigger than the grief journey. You have loss, which is the event, what happened. That is when that person is continuously talking about the event. In that case, don't talk about how they feel. Allow them to retell the event. Don't go and ask them anything. Then you move into the emotional stage, which is grief. When the person is emoting, don't ask them what happened and ask them to tell you the details of the loss, right? Allow them to be in that grief stage. Then you have the mourning stage, which is your public display, where legacy works happen, and a public display of grief, which could look like wearing a certain types of clothes or being in confinement. And only after that do you talk about bereavement, which is the way forward. Now, the reason that I'm explaining all of this is because when somebody is in loss or grief, they cannot see the way forward to make monthly or weekly goals. It has to be, for some people, an hourly goal. In the next hour, I'm going to wash the dishes. In the next hour, I need to cook something.
Taking it moment by moment, that's pretty much.
By moment.
Yes.
When you are sipping a glass of water, count how many sips are in there. Just sit and count, right? And that's how we, again, focus on the now.
Is that bringing yourself present then? allowing yourself to basically be in the moment without your mind running through to the event or to the future, without the person that you've loved. So it's just
100%.
appreciating that moment.
It's retraining what we already know, but what we have forgotten, because we spend most of our lives in the future and the past. So it's bringing it back to what is now, what can I control, what am I feeling? And so sometimes we need to train ourselves with how many sips are in a glass of water, how many steps to my bathroom, how many steps to my kitchen to make food, just little steps. And it might sound a bit silly, but when you're counting out loud, you realize for the first time, I had no idea how many steps there was.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's pretty incredible. Keshni, thank you so much for joining us today.
Welcome.
Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have, but I will definitely share your details of this amazing, I don't know what amazing group or amazing foundation of help that you've provided. And also a job well done to the counselors as well, who give off so much of their time to help those who need it the most. I know myself, I cannot reiterate enough how having people from that counseling background or therapy background as friends, that helped me, that ground me, that basically, sort of set the pace for where I am today, just being there and being aware with how I'm feeling. So I think it's great that there is the sort of support group for moms to reach out to when they feel like, everything is just too much. And yes, I am so sorry for your loss as well. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, we will definitely connect. I have so much to ask you. It's so much information about everything that I'd love to share out there as well. But yes, all the best to you and for the rest of your future ahead.
Thank you so much, Sabihah, and thank you for opening the space. To you and Mohammed for giving us the opportunity to be here today. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, please do join me tomorrow where we will be discussing emotional healing, and we will then be tying this in closely with our faith and deen as well. So yes, I will be back tomorrow, same time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.